Welcome back to this unplanned fourth and final episode on our quick and not so easy EVO 8 build for our friend Robert, one of our Patreon supporters. So stay tuned as we troubleshoot this thing and get it running properly before we head back to the dyno.
If you guys are just joining us, the previous episode we had this car on the dyno and it was just struggling in a way that, you know, an experienced tuner like Radek could tell. For me, it didn't sound off. There was, you know, it seemed to be running fine, but it just wasn't getting up to its potential. Radek said he felt like a restriction somewhere that was going on, and the fueling certainly came up as what we think could be an issue. And we don't know what injectors are in here. We don't know what fuel pump is in here. They're supposed to be ID1000s, and we think it's a Walbro 255. So what we're gonna do, and one of the first things we're gonna do is check to make sure that the injectors are in fact IDs, because there's a lot of knockoffs that were being made in this era of these ID1000s. And looking here right away, I can tell they do have the proper top hat. So the IDs always had this this blue top hat right here. So that's certainly a good indicator. And I did a little bit of digging. Unfortunately, these older ID1000s were not engraved. So they would be, ID1000 would be engraved across the bottom. These ones don't have that. But what they do have, and a sign of them being legit IDs, is they have the last 3 digits of the serial number scraped off. So I'm looking at it right now, and I do see that in fact, and the writing and everything does look like these are true Bosch injectors that were modified by ID. So I'm pretty confident in saying that these are authentic, and they are the 1000s. Maybe the next thing we will do before we pull the fuel pump is just do a leak down test on this thing to see if there's any major leaking, because that would also affect fueling and give us that like lazy response that this car had.
I think you mean a boost leak test, not a leak down test.
Yes, correct. Yeah. A pressure leak down. Is that better?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Sure. All right, so to do a boost pressure test, what I've done is I have this kind of homemade plug here that I've built out with a tire Schrader valve, and we did plug one of the few ports that would pressurize the crank, so I think we're okay now. And really at this point, it's just a matter of starting to pressurize things, pumping it up, and listening if you can hear any leaks. And I don't know if you guys can hear that. I hear something.
Yep.
There it is.
Leaking from somewhere.
Look at right here. Hear that? So wow, so this clamp is actually leaking. Usually we'd use soap water in this, so once we kind of contain everything and we can still hear leaks and we can't pinpoint them, then we go to the soap water method. But at this point, I think we're just gonna crank a lot of these down a lot more and go from there. You're moving on here, and we are starting to see, you can hear a bunch of leaking coming from
look at the bottom of the
blow off valve. Yeah, like see, that's not necessarily that important because that's the dump to the blow off valve. Up here though, I saw a bit of bubbles. Let me respray this here. And I saw a bunch of bubbles coming out of there. You can see right at the top.
Oh yeah, on this hose clamp on the right.
Yeah, you can see here there is a lot of corrosion, especially where the hose was mating this piece. So we're gonna clean this up, make it look nice and pretty, and then we'll put it all back together and test it again.
Oh yeah.
She leaking down there, DP?
Oh yeah, bubbles like coming out here. All kinds of good bubbles. Okay. And it does look like there's some oxidization on the pipe there, so I feel like it's the same as the blow-off valve. We need to just clean that joint up and crank her down.
Yeah, and this should really be a lesson to everybody. Before you take your car to the dyno, it is a very, very good thing to pressure test it like this, because all these little leaks, first of all, just add up to an inefficiency and make the car work harder. Or you could have what we had was, you know, the car just felt a little bit lazy. There was certainly something going on. The fueling was off, and, you know, a boost leak, like the one we had up here, those couplers were for sure loose. We just did not tighten them properly, and that could have been leading or contributing to our issue. And look what we found. I bet you any money this dent here is certainly causing part of the leak, as it's probably not rounded here. I'm gonna do my best to punch this out and straighten it out here. Okay, well, you can see it's certainly way, way better than it was. And now looking at it a little bit further, the structural side where the lip is really hasn't been damaged. A lot of it was just the inside lip. So we're gonna, and you can see Dave did a fantastic job cleaning this up. So we're just gonna put this back together and of course, do it again. Pressure test it and hopefully we don't see anything coming out of here. Okay, that is, man, 15 or like 17 PSI right now.
Yeah.
And do we have any leaks down there, DP?
No, it looks good.
And I do not hear any hissing up here.
That's a good sign. And I checked the other side over here too, and it looks good.
That's excellent. Okay, well,
I think we might be there.
I mean, at this point, I think we're gonna call this a success, and you can see how many small little leaks we had. So yeah, tighten your hose clamps. We did notice that the downpipe here is extremely close to our coupler. I mean, there's certainly an air gap. It just feels like, you know, it's protruding a lot of heat into what you're trying to keep cool, which is our intake charge. So we grabbed some of this DEI shielding here and I molded it against the pipe like this. And now what I'm gonna do is come in with a couple of these metal zip ties from DEI as well. And that should hopefully, you know, mitigate a little bit of the heat and reflect it. These metal zip ties are super handy to have in a number of situations, this one being one, but man, they do come in handy. Anytime you think a plastic zip tie isn't gonna cut it, use one of these guys. And you know, like for example, in this application, this thing's pretty much perfect here. So one of the last things we do wanna check is the fuel pump. I'm extremely confident just by the sound that this is a Walbro 255, but you know what? A lot of the parts that we are finding on this car are quite old. They haven't been, you know, installed recently. So we figure at this point, if we're gonna be checking what's in here, we might as well throw Robert an upgrade. So let me get this thing out and we'll confirm what we got in here. Whoa, that's a lot of fuel.
Yeah,
and let's see here.
Jesus.
That's a Walbro, people. There it is. So we do have a Walbro in here. So we've got our AAM performance fuel pump. This is a 340 liter per hour. So it's gonna be a significant boost over this. And the beauty of this is E85 compatible. So in the future, if he decides to go E85, he will have a pump ready to go for him. And my gloves do not allow me to pick up the little ring here that needs to go on the end. Ah. Can you do it? Can you do it?
Oh.
Can you do it, DP?
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So we're gonna put this on, and this is a drop-in. That's the beauty of this pump as well. Is look at it. It's just gonna bolt. It's gonna plug right into here. It's gonna, this little like rubber adapter is gonna slide onto here. So we have ourselves a full win here, and what is realistically like what, a 10-minute job?
Minutes,
yeah. So I mean, that was a little finicky, but in the grand scheme of things, not that bad at all. DP, I was thinking, like, what car have we done that the fuel pump was like the easiest job on and like the worst one?
Well, obviously the GTR was the worst and the Supra was the easiest.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, is the Supra the easiest one?
Man, it's so nice.
Because it's in the trunk, right? Yeah.
And it doesn't have this whole like square hole.
I know. Well, this, yeah. All they had to do was move this a little bit, but I could see, look, the seam sealer is along here. So
lazy engineering.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, post in the comments. And why don't you guys let us know which of your cars or which car do you think has the easiest fuel pump swap and which one is the worst? Because right now, yeah, we're leaning towards RB. I don't think, you know, in any of the BMWs I've done, they've been finicky, but they've never been this like as bad as the GTR, only because there's just so much to remove on that car, I think. So one last thing, we thought the fuel pump was it. We checked everything over, you know, we had boost leaks. But we did continue to have the battery status on the AEM gauge come up. And I was like, that's so weird. We triple checked the battery. The battery was showing fine voltage. I'm looking at it right now. It's got 12.45 volts. When you start it up, it works fine. And the air-fuel ratio gauge was working fine when we fired it up. But I ended up talking to Franz Diebold from Diebold Motorsports, and he was like, man, if you have some weird issue with the battery, I bet you it is your ground. And sure enough, when I fixed the ground on here, you can see now this gauge is working perfectly. So it is reading rather no ground, it's reading full lean. And we were seeing a bit of a discrepancy with fuel. Like that's where all of this came from. So I think now this car is ready for the dyno again. We kind of have everything dialed in. We've taken care of the boost leaks. We think this is fixed 100% where it's correlating with the Link software in terms of where the air fuel ratio is. So is it time, DP? I think it's time we head back to the dyno and give this thing another go here. And just like that, we are back at the dyno here at YD Motorsports. So we're gonna be firing this thing up. Radek's just got to do a little bit of fine tuning. He's done a lot of street tuning, so we should have some power figures for you guys very, very quick. I am running solo today because it is a little bit late. So we've been kind of like burning the midnight oil to get this project done here, which means no Dave, but me and Radek, we're gonna get this done here. And there we have it, our final run, a very conservative 300 and we'll round up 29 wheel horsepower and 302 foot-pounds of torque. Let's just preface this is very conservative for this turbo. Just remember guys, we do have a catalytic converter on this car. It's not by all means a an 800 horsepower high flow cat. It's still considered a high flow cat, but nothing of that nature, like the performance kind. And we do have that big bottleneck on the O2 dump, which was like I think
you reduced to 2.5
ish or something like that. So anyways, we don't want to make excuses. This is actually a very, I think, healthy number for this car.
It's healthy. You could beat on it, and with lower octane fuels, it's it's reliable, and we're not trying to break the internet here with these numbers. It's just to make a reliable car, and that's it, right? And we got that.
Yeah, 100% we did, and we don't know. Robert's likely going to have to retune this car just to make sure that it is in good working order with his fuel. Radek's left this, like he could go pump the 93 octane he's got in Ohio into this thing, and it's gonna run fine. So that was the whole point of this,
We are running fairly low ignition timing, even to what I'm used to.
This was, I think, like what, 20-ish pounds of boost, low timing. So with 25, 26 pounds of boost, sure, this thing would have made, maybe 400-ish. Who knows? Boost on this car is phenomenal. It just like comes in 3,500 RPM. It's full, 20 pounds of boost, and man, look at it carry. It's so flat.
And you said this turbo is in a stock housing, right?
Yeah, it's a stock housing turbo. Yeah.
So that's how the torque right away. Like as you see, you get on the gas.
Yeah.
And you're almost at 300 foot-pounds of torque.
I know.
Like it's right there, right?
Yeah.
So on the street, 300 foot-pounds of torque when you hit the gas pedal feels like 500 horsepower because it's there versus waiting for it. And let's be honest, most of us spend 95% of the time on the street just cruising,
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. This is, once again, this is an OEM plus build. We did not want to go crazy on it. I think this is perfection. This is going to feel so much better, which, by the way, we're going to drive this car now and show you what this thing feels like. All right, DP. Wow, man. This car, I love Evos.
Yeah,
Every time I
too,
drive them, it's partial throttle. You just, especially with that small turbo, look, it's just like, it just feels up so quick.
It does. It feels really snappy. It feels lively.
So different than a Subaru.
Man, I know. I mean, I do miss the abandoned STI, but this feels way more responsive.
And it also feels livelier just in general. You know, it's a lighter car. It just feels more like it wants to party, where the Subaru felt more like a luxury cruiser.
Yeah.
A very powerful luxury cruiser, but this thing just feels more like, I don't know, it speaks more to me as a performance car.
Yeah,
you know
and
what I mean?
for sure it does, for sure. That's always been the Evo's character. You know, it doesn't have sound deadening. It's loud in here.
Yes.
You know, the materials are a little bit cheaper than
Yes,
the Subaru.
all true.
But, you know, what it brings in performance is, to me, just like so much better than most Subarus.
The 4G just feels more efficient than the EJ to me. It feels like it's got better initial response. Just feels like it's not fighting itself somehow. Where with the EJs, it always felt like there was a conflict happening there, you know? So, anyway.
Here's the thing. With this setup, with that small turbo now, you just like literally, we're at 3,000 RPM, and I like tip in, like, look at it, and we are off.
So good.
Like, it's
so drivable.
So good, and that's the beauty, you know, like, the idea that horsepower is the be-all and the end-all, which is what everybody on the internet is looking for. Big numbers, big power, but really the area under the curve, especially for a day-to-day street car, you just want, like, we are in the business of building responsive area under the curve cars. And, you know, with this car, for example, this is just kind of, this is perfect. This is like the perfect Evo to me.
So simple, too. Like what we did under the hood is so simple.
You don't have to go crazy on it, and then you just like lean into it. Look, it's making 10 pounds of boost at 3,000 RPM, and like, it's just so
makes
nice.
Nice noises too.
Yes, it really does.
It feels very alive and exciting to even be in the passenger seat in this car, because it makes cool noises. It feels super responsive. It just feels like, to me, I always make the comparison of it being like an all-wheel drive Integra Type R. It has a really edgy, you know, hardcore feel to it, which I personally love, but maybe if you're cruising every day to work and back, this isn't the car for you, but I think Robert's going to really, really enjoy this.
For sure.
He has other cars.
And of course, like, the suspension on this thing, man, the amount of people that, you know, got so upset that we pulled those Öhlins off this car and swapped them out was crazy. It just goes to show what branding does, right? Like, the suspension is so far superior. That suspension, you know, quality-wise, sure, maybe a little bit better than the Fortunes, but these, for this application, for like bumpy roads, are actually better.
Yeah, they're more compliant on these kinds of roads, and they're brand new. Where his old Öhlins were worn out.
We're blown.
We don't have a relationship with Öhlins where we do have a relationship with Fortune. It just made sense to us to put Fortunes on this car. And Robert will have his old Öhlins back. We're not keeping them, so if he wants to have them rebuilt, he can. But in the meantime, he's got a really nice street track setup.
You know, this is pothole central here.
Yeah, this is like...
This car, you know, absorbs these bumps properly.
It really does.
On these 18s, you know, like, this is fine.
And if you go watch our Fortunato factory tour video, you will learn that they use internals in these dampers from a very high-end Swedish manufacturer whose name may start with an O. So chill, everybody, on that one, because this is good quality stuff.
Yeah, let me just give you a quick pull here.
Woo!
Oh, dude.
Man. So linear.
And watch the brakes now.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, this car's great.
It's track ready. It is track ready.
And it's not like so fast that you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to bang a gear here. I'm not gonna be able to catch a gear. Let's turn here. Let's let people by here. But it's the perfect amount of power where it's manageable. It's like right for this chassis. Like,
that's good, man. It's just like instant response. Like, as soon as you go to it, it gets into boost.
So the one thing we did do off camera is we put a Torque Solutions front engine mount on this car.
Which Robert sent to us.
Yes, Robert sent to us. And in doing so, the NVH for me is just so high. A very annoying constant
vibration. And it's because it's a poly mount.
And that's just one mount. We left all of the other ones stock. And man, I don't love it. If you've got an Evo that you enjoy, get new OEM mounts.
I think so too.
That to me is the way to go.
Every car we run poly engine mounts on, we regret. It's just not great for NVH. If it's a race car, a track car only, then sure, go nuts. But for anything you drive on the street, I just cannot recommend poly engine mounts or transmittance or diff mounts, any of that stuff. Anything connected to the drivetrain, you will regret.
Man, the sounds this turbo makes.
Yeah, I know. It sounds so good.
It just comes on so quickly. Such a nice linear power band. It really exhaust sounds good.
It does sound good.
You know, it's perfect.
I was concerned the exhaust was going to be too loud because the muffler's quite small.
Yeah.
But it's not loud at all, and there's no drone in here.
Yeah, and remember, we have a cat in this car.
Yeah, that
so
makes
this
a big
car is like
difference.
100% street legal. Look at that, even 4th gear, man. It just goes. It's just, oh.
And the ride quality on these big 18-inch wheels in the Yankee with TS7s and the Condi, you know, Extreme Contact Sports is perfect.
Look at over these bumps, man.
Yeah.
So
it's really very nice.
yeah, I love the gauges. This Autometer gauge pod is kind of perfect for Evos. Having the AEM gauges here, you can just like quickly check everything.
I like the fact that you got a digital readout. I just find I can digest a digital number so much more quickly than a dial. So I'm a big fan of it that way.
For sure. So I've forgotten how nice the gearbox on these cars is. It's just so proper. So.
Well, you're gonna have to convert your Evo 9 to this gearbox then, aren't you?
I know, man.
Man, she rips good. Really does push you back in the seat nicely.
It does. It's got that perfect amount
like
of power.
the perfect amount of power for a street car to me.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna roast the tires.
No.
But you're gonna have a blast.
Listen, I had an Evo that made almost 500 to the wheel.
Yeah.
And it would just be like wha-bang, wha-bang, wha-bang. It was, for sure, it was fun and fast.
Yeah.
But from like a everyday use aspect, it revved out way too quickly.
Yeah.
You know, you were always just like anticipating, where with this car you could enjoy it.
Yeah.
Is that the right way to say it?
You can use more of its performance in more scenarios out on the street without feeling like you're gonna go to jail. So yeah, it's a really well balanced package, man. I'm pumped on it, and I hope you are too, Robert.
Well, DP, I think we have accomplished what we wanted with this build, and that is an OEM Plus build. We've certainly given Robert, I think, all of the tools he needs to kind of build off of. He does have dreams of building a 2.3 liter stroker motor for this in the future, and that turbo should work well with that. It should really be able to come alive if he does all of the supporting mods and all that jazz.
And the Link ECU was a big ticket item for him too, giving him the ability to tune that custom motor that he will build someday. And he did build the motor for his previous Evo, so we're confident that he'll pull that one off, and maybe we'll report back to you guys in the future on that. As a matter of fact, that leads us into our next point, which is that normally we would have Robert here with us and we would take him for a drive after revealing the car to him, but that can't happen for reasons that he's going to explain to you guys right now.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Young. I won the Speed Academy Pimp My Ride contest for the patrons. I've been following the videos carefully, and I'm super excited about what they've done with my car. Unfortunately, I'm unable to pick up the car because my wife is currently undergoing a non-life-threatening medical emergency. So while I really wanted to come up there and talk to the guys again and pick the car up and do a video with them for you guys, this is the best I can do right now. The best place for lighting in my house is the garage because I'm a DIY guy. I'm really excited to get the Evo back. I'm really excited about everything they've done to it, and I can't wait to continue to dig into the car and work on it myself. I've had a really good time talking to everybody in the comments, and I just wanted to say that, if you guys can support their channel, that would be really great. They didn't ask me to do this, but signing up for Patreon really helps them, and you can also get access to the Discord channel where a bunch of us car nerds talk all the time about what we're doing with our cars and stuff. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Pete and Dave. Love all your work. And Dave, I really want to send out a heartfelt thank you to you for treating me so nice when I came to drop the car off. And Pete, thank you so much for working on yet another Evo. And I'm really sorry that I feel like that set your Evo back a little bit. But I know you guys will get it done, and I can't wait to see it beat up on that Subaru.
All right, guys, thanks again for watching, and we will see you very soon. We've got lots of exciting things coming with Honda builds, more JDM legends, so stay tuned.